There we go. Okay, I think I'm recording. So MyMaps is totally my favorite tool, and I've used it for a lot of different subjects. I mean, I think when we think of maps, we mostly think of using them for social studies, but I'll show you a couple of examples of how I've used MyMaps for other things. MyMaps is kind of like a combination of Google Maps and a doc, like a student's like personal or a group's personal doc that they create themselves, because what you're doing is you're putting pins on the map where you want them, and you can add text, you can add photo, you can add video, so it can become almost like the presentation tool. Like instead of doing a slideshow, they could do a My Map, and so their map could have all that content that they would normally put somewhere else embedded in their map. And so that's kind of the nice thing about it. Let's see, if the link to the slideshow is in your calendar invite, so you have links to all of these different samples. The ones on the left are my maps that I've made. The top 4 are ones I did in class, and the bottom 2, I'm such like a lover of my maps that I use it for my own personal stuff as well. And I'll show you a couple of samples of that. They're really, really awesome, like for vacations and for, and I'll show you. And then these are public ones that I found that are just kind of fun, and they show you kind of the versatility of what a My Map can do. And there's a few on here that do things that I have never done before. And so there's some exploring that you could do. But so just to give you a little gist, like one year, when I first found out about My Maps, I used it for my entire 4th grade social studies like year. And so for each unit that we did, the kids had their own map, and they added a layer for each unit. So while we were studying different things, they would add a layer to the map. So this was kind of almost like a history portfolio for them at the end of the year. So the first layer they added was this purple one, whatever color they wanted it to be, but it was special places. And you can see these, you can do different layers. So then we got into geography, and the kids added basic geography to their map. And they, when you add a pin, you can add photos, you can add video, you can add text as well. So then we did geographical features. So instead of them just writing in a notebook and writing definitions out of their textbook, they actually went in the map and they found an example of a gulf, you know, or an example of a mountain range or a hill or a plateau. And then they could actually see a physical example of it and see where it is in the world. So that's was kind of cool. Then we did stuff with the regions, and I asked them to pin a city, a national park, a geographical feature within that region. And the kids can change the color of these little pins so that you can kind of color code everything, and it can be very cool. And then you can turn certain layers off and turn certain layers on. So that's really cool too. So when we were doing history, I could say, okay, you know, let's look at just the regions and the Native Californian stuff that we were looking at. And we can say, okay, which tribes lived in whatever region, and we could kind of compare things by the pins on the map, by the different layers. So anyway, so this was like a big social studies example. I also used it for something like writing, when we were doing opinion writing, and we were starting just with 4th graders to really start talking about giving 3 reasons, you know, to back up their writing. So I had them just as like a kind of an intro activity. It was almost like the thing to get them excited about their opinion writing. We put a layer for best restaurant, a layer for most beautiful vacation spot, a layer for most fun place for a birthday party. I just kind of made these up. And then the kids got to pick a few where they pinned something, but then they had to write the 3 reasons why they picked this to be a most beautiful vacation spot. And so it just got them thinking about those, you know, 3 reasons that they were going to then give for evidence, right, for their writing. So even this map could be something that you use to incorporate with writing. A couple personal examples. This is my dad gave me my grandma's journals from 1930 1937 and 1938 to read from New York City. And so as I was reading her journals, I just would pin the places that my grandma talked about on the map. And then I found some photographs and stuff, and I ended up giving it to my dad as like a little Father's Day present, like this map of like places that his mom had visited. So it's, and then if you know, you can add these photographs, then I could look for, this one is not loading, but you can, I don't know why they're not loading. Probably just my internet, but so you can pin photos. You could even do interviews with people in different places and record video. You could do audio. You can add all kinds of things. Vacation map. Before we were going, when we were reading guidebooks, we would pin places we wanted to go. And then as we went to them, you know, when I got home, I added photographs, and then it became this like travel journal, right? And so if other people now are like, oh, I'm going to Iceland, I could then share this map with friends and they could poke around and see, like, and I added restaurants and museums and, you know, landmarks and things like that. This is one that someone else made, and I don't really know how they did these like big chunky parts and arrows, but so that's kind of cool that for science or social studies, a Great Migration, you could kind of physically show it on the map. Which is really cool. And then this one is my favorite. This is this guy that does where the leaves are changing in California, and he updates the color of the leaves on the map so that you know where the peak of the fall colors have passed and where it's at their peak, and you're supposed to go like right now. So this is current, and he updates it like every Tuesday or something. And I totally check this map all the time and go on little road trips based on where this guy tells me to go. So this is amazing. And I can, you have a link to this map now if you want to bookmark it, but it's the best. And he does it every year. I've been following this guy for a couple of years. So, and this is just, he added, you know, these locations, and then he changes the pin color to match his little key, which is really cool. And if you want to unmute and hop in at any time, please just go ahead and unmute yourself and hop in at any time that you want to. But you have all kinds of samples there, and you can see really that like kind of the sky's the limit in terms of topics. You could use this for when you're reading a novel and kids are like, you know, as they're reading, they're pinning places from the novel on the map. And you can see that, let's see where the, you can see here that they can add text, and this one just has, you know, the definition, but you could write a whole paragraph there to explain something that happened in that location, whether it's history or language arts or whatever you're using it for. So lots of writing that they can do. And then also I love the visual element of it too, where they can add photos and videos. So these next slides, you're going to notice that the background in these next few slides are light gray. That means that these are kind of embedded the intro activity that that you would use with your kids. So basically, just to walk you through what you'd do with your kids as an intro, they would get this little slideshow with these instructions. They would just go to mymaps.google.com, or in your drive under the new button, there's a new MyMap, like just like you would do new doc or new. You could even give them the mymaps.google.com link on Google Classroom. And when they click on it, when they're logged in, it's going to bring them to their own kind of like menu of maps, right? Just like their docs or their sheets or whatever, like that. They're going to click on create a new map, and you give your map a title. So for this intro activity, I just had them do my special places because it's nice and simple, and they can pick 5 things and really learn how to, you know, do the different elements of it. So the kids would get this as their first instruction. Is there a question? Yeah.
Just, I think this is quick. Is a new map, like the thing that you did that took a long time in 4th grade, was that one big map with a bunch of layers, or was that a bunch of maps?
That was
What-
one map with a bunch of layers.
Okay, so
Yeah.
create a new map is just your basic, but then you can have a bunch of layers on top of it.
Right. So if you wanted, this map to grow, you could have them do this intro activity. And then for another unit, you could have them add another layer and just keep going on the same map if you wanted to do that for sure. There is a limit to the number of layers, which we sadly found out that first year I did it. We got to like the next unit and we were all excited to go add our next layer. And it's like, everyone was like, Miss Crimmin, we can't add any more layers.
Out.
It's something like 10 or 15 layers or something.
So you can
Is
pay $15.99 a month,
what's that?
or you can pay $15.99 a month.
No, I think it's like, that's it, like it's not a paid thing, but maybe they've changed it by now. I haven't done a project that used so many layers in a couple years. And so maybe that's different, but it is something worth looking into before just like Google, what's the maximum number of layers on a MyMap. So then the next thing, there's going to be a search bar, just like in any map that you're looking at, and you would just search for the place that you want. And then you'll notice down here at the bottom, when you found it, the little pin is green right now. And then there's a button right here that says add to map. And if anyone is feeling like it, you're welcome to like go along with this and like try it out while we're going. But when you click add to map, you see how the pin turns blue, and now that pin is part of your map. And if you want to, you can go into this little bucket and change the color. There are little icons. So if you wanted like national parks to be a tree and a city to be a building, I mean, you could get really specific about the labeling on your map if you wanted to. I tend to leave the kind of icon part up to the kids, but I do, when they're adding multiple layers, I do like each layer to have a different color, because then it's really cool that you can kind of compare and contrast things. Okay, were there any plateaus in the mountain region? And we could turn on geographical features and regions, and we could kind of look at those two side by side. So the layers being different colors is helpful. There is a little, I'm going to go back actually one slide. There's a little camera right here at the bottom. You can see that little camera. When you click on that, you're going to get, all the regular choose an image. So you can choose something from your computer, which is what I did when I made my travel journal. You can search Google, you can go to YouTube, you can link to all those places that you can normally link to when you add photos on like a slideshow or a doc. And so, I just picked a picture of Yosemite and I clicked save. And then there's a little pencil icon, going back one more time. Right next to the camera, there's this little pencil. And when you click on that pencil icon, and there's the picture of it for the kids, then it gives you the text box and you can write some text. So for this intro activity, I was just having them write, why is this a special place to you? Or why do you dream of going there if it's not somewhere you've been before? And again, you have to click save. And I've had kids who type it all in and then like go to search for something new. They didn't click save and like none of their stuff was saved. So unlike a Google Doc that auto saves it for you, if you're adding a photo or any text, you do have to click that save button for it to grab the stuff that you wrote. So here's the telling the kids about the colors. So it gives you this whole color palette and then some icons. These are popular ones, but there's tons of them. So you can, when you open that, you can get more, and there's all kinds of cool icons if you wanted to really get specific about labeling your places. So then I just had them repeat that 5 times, find 5 places, or how you could change those instructions if you wanted to, just to get them in the habit of adding things to their map. The instructions that your students are going to have, if you do want to do this, I said was just to go share that map with you. Because they're all creating their own, it's not really a created on Google Classroom kind of thing, because you're not making a copy for each student. They're going into MyMaps and creating their own. So when you, if you click on this down here, it'll take you to this intro to MyMaps activity. And this is just, you can make a copy of this. I think the link will show you the template of it, and then you just click use this template if you want to use it. But it's basically that just these, few slides that I just showed you, but they're ready to go to use with the kids. And then it has a little box here telling them how to share it with you. So that's all set and good to go if you want to use it with your students. And again, I think your students could do this in one day. Like this would be kind of like a great asynchronous activity where you show them and you add a couple things to your own map and then assign that for them to do, would be a great asynchronous activity. So that was kind of quick to go through kind of the general ideas. Are there any questions about creating them or using it with your kids? And then we'll dive a little bit more into maybe some brainstorming, some other ways to use it, and a few other little things. But any questions so far? That was fast.
I have a
Yeah.
question. There's so many. It's kind of random, but like your Icelandic pictures, since they're digital pictures, does it automatically know exactly where it was taken? And then it pins it in that place?
Oh, I have never tried to kind of combine
This
my
is very
maps
selfish.
and
This is
Google
for
Photos.
backpacking.
Yeah,
I think
if you go to your photos and you look at the info for the photo, I think there are like coordinates, and then
uh-huh.
you could probably copy those coordinates from your photo info and then use that in your search on MyMaps, and then I bet it would put it in that exact
Yeah.
location. Yeah.
But so like your Icelandic one, I looked at that because I have the link. How did you just knew where they were, so you pinned the place?
Yeah, I mean, like this has been taking photos at the airport, right? So I just looked up the airport and
Yeah, I
dropped
guess.
it right there.
Yeah.
Or, a lot of them were kind of like
Uh-huh.
tourist attractions or waterfalls or whatever, so they were on the map. When I searched here, I searched for that specific place. If it was like on the side of the road and it was a beautiful vista, I just kind of tried to guess, like, where were we when we took this, like along which stretch of road. And you can drop your own pins instead of searching here. You can also just click here and you
Okay.
can add your own marker wherever you want. So that's kind of cool. And then the other thing that I didn't point out on this one is that you can do, I think you can see the line on here. You can draw lines. So this is when we were doing explorers. They, each team of kids had an explorer that they were studying. And so they had to also add, during that time, the route that their explorer took. So it's kind of
Doing
cool.
this. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then there's really interesting uses. Like I saw there's one I linked for you guys that's like follow 007. It's like every James Bond movie, and each actor that played James Bond is a different layer on the map, and then each movie for each actor is a
Okay.
different like pin on the map. And it shows different like spot locations from each movie. And I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do with it, but it's really cool. I mean, the Iceland one, to be honest with you, we had already bookmarked, as we were reading our guidebooks, we had bookmarked a handful of places that we read about. And then MyMaps can be on your phone and it can sync with your Google Maps. So if I opened the MyMap and I clicked on the place and I could do directions, it would just take us to the next spot that we had, it all kind of tied together. So it was really cool.
You are so high tech.
I
Damn.
mean, it's like the
Incredible.
next level of making a scrapbook, right? And so it doesn't take up space, and all your
I just
photos
write
are
things on Post-its.
all your photos are digital now anyway, so it's kind of like that next way to do it. So all right, so here's kind of some more features, and some of these I've used and some I haven't, but just kind of like what was in that intro is like very, it's just the basics, right? Just pinning. It's not even about layers. It's just about getting some pins on your map. If you want to add layers, I gave you kind of an example of a map that uses that feature. And then I found some, these aren't me doing tutorials, they're other people, but I just found video tutorials of each of those kind of things. So since I know we don't want to spend all day on Zoom today, I just dropped those videos there so that if you're going to go next level and you wanted to, really see more about how to do some of these next things, that you have videos to refer to. But so you can add layers to your map, like that social studies one. You can draw lines and shapes. There's a video for that. You can change the style and the color of the pins. I showed you a little bit about that. There's a really cool thing where you can add directions or distances. And so there's videos for that if you wanted to do, if you wanted to do some sort of project where the kids are measuring. I mean, you could use this for math. I even saw a video of a guy that was like redoing his like house, and he was using MyMaps to like measure the distance of his roof to kind of get a rough estimate of how big the area of his roof was when he was doing renovations. So there's all kinds of cool things you can do. Import your own photos like that Iceland one. And you can also import data. So this is really, really cool. So I'll just show you this one really fast. So if you wanted to like pretty quickly show data from a question you asked, you can map it. So if I used, let's say I used a Google form, which is what I did with this one. And I think I did this at a staff meeting like several years ago when I first found out about MyMaps. And I just gave everyone a 1-question Google form, and it just said, where'd you go over break? And everyone typed in a location. Well, you know how you can turn your form into a sheet. So then you can import data. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in here. You can import data. I'm not sure, maybe this one's kind of locked, but there's a button you can push and you can import the column you want from your sheet. And so within a minute, we were at a staff meeting, and up on the screen, we could see where everybody went over break visually on the map. And it was all just from everybody answering this one question on a Google form. So if there's questions you want to ask your students, where you can think about, then like blasting that info onto a map, there's a video there that explains to you a little bit more about how to do that, how to get your data from a file, a form, and to put it on your map, which is really cool. So there's a lot of places you can find your map. It's kind of like a doc, right? If you want a doc, you can go to your drive, you can go to docs.google.com and it shows you just your docs. You can go, there's all kinds of places you can find your docs. I mean, they're going to be in your drive. They're going to be there. If you're in a map, you can open up any maps you have. If you go to mymaps.google.com, it gives you kind of a menu of all of your maps separately. If you're in Google Maps, MyMaps is embedded. So if you're on your phone and you're in Google Maps, or you're on your computer and you're in Google Maps and you've created a MyMap, you can get to it straight from the menu in Google Maps. And then you can also, like I said, find it in Drive. And they have that little icon, so you'll know. And you could even do a Drive search just for your maps too. So there's lots of ways you can find them once you've made them. Let's see. And you can share them just like you do other docs. You can have other people contribute. So if you were going to do one where a team of kids were going to work on a group project, that's what I did with some 5th grade teachers at Ocean View. They were doing regions projects, and they wanted a team of kids to put, they had a list of things like 4 cities, 2 national parks, a funny roadside attraction, a geographical feature, whatever from that region. And so they had one group working on coast, one group working on desert, and so they shared this map. They created the map called Desert, and you create your groups and you'd share it with your 4 kids or whatever that are going to work on that. And then what I like to do is then make like a sheet that has links to each of those. So I can post that sheet on Google Classroom and everybody can get to their map from the same doc, if that makes sense. Like I have desert on there. Now, if I'm not in the desert group and I click on desert, I'm not going to be able to get into that map because I, as a teacher, have already just gone and shared it with those kids that should have access to the desert map, if that makes sense. But it does allow you to not have to like share things over and over again with all kinds of groups of kids. You just get to place those links on one doc. And that, for me, it saves a lot of time. You can enable link sharing and let people see it. And then you can, share with specific people. I think when you click share on a map, it gives you these two different options. Like either you can enable link sharing for everyone, or you can do it the normal way. And so you have that there. And then I was just kind of brainstorming like different ideas, show what you know. How could this be another opportunity for students to create a final project, right? Like we want to give them so much choice and we want them to be engaged. And so I love the idea of either one student or a group of students at the end of their book getting to choose, okay, do you want to make a poster? Do you want to make a slideshow? Do you want to make a map? Like, do you want to write a report? Like, this is just another option now for students to be able to show what they know. It's an awesome thing to use for identity kind of stuff, like is your family background, that kind of stuff is awesome. You could definitely, if you were going on a field trip, in normal times, you could definitely, have kids pin places along the way or, look at the spots where you went. But it could also kind of serve as a little virtual field trip to go to all kinds of places. How could you tie it in with literature? I'm sure lots of like ideas are starting to spin. Social studies, obviously, enhancing history curriculum, putting battles, or we've used it where were the missions, and then we overlaid that with the regions and the native Californians, and we were looking at, okay, where were the missions compared to where these different tribes were living. Math and science, there were all those. I haven't used it a ton for that, but it looks like there's some fun kind of ways to do that. Could this be part of a larger hyperdoc? Like I know that some of the women that created hyperdocs to start with, they have this really cool one about like kind of a special places big unit where you watch a couple videos and you do all this stuff, and then kind of the culminating thing at the end is to get on your map and do some stuff on the map. Or maybe part of the exploration is some videos that are pinned in different places around the world, right? And you have to go watch a video from each continent or from 5 different countries, and then do some writing after you've watched those. And you could be the ones that create the map with the resources and the videos that the kids are all accessing to watch things from all around the world. It's really cool. To gather information, like I showed you, even just something simple like where'd we all go on vacation, and then how can students connect to other students, like how can it get them really thinking about other parts of the world, are just kind of some of the things that I was thinking about when I was, putting this together. So really the options are like endless, and I love this tool so much because it combines, I don't know, all my favorite things about Google Apps in terms of, making connections, and kind of getting outside of where you can normally be in a classroom, in a classroom setting. So that's kind of the slideshow. I think maybe I'll stop sharing, and I might even, I don't know if anyone has any immediate questions. I think I'm actually going to stop.